I'm always annoyed when people say that the Dungeon Master isn't playing D&D. In my opinion, the Dungeon Master is the most playingest player in the game. So let's get this silly notion that the Dungeon Master isn't playing out of your brain. In this video series, I'm going to give you the basics of the best role you can have in a role-playing game, the Dungeon Master. My name's Legal Kimchi, and I haven't played as a player in D&D since the 90s. And this is some DM good gaming. So you want to get into D&D, and your players have nominated you as the Dungeon Master. Good for you. Thank you for your support. I pledge to raise experience points across the boards. Fireballs for everybody. Well, now what? Well, here's the thing. D&D actually only has 2 rules. Just 2. I'm going to condense the entire 3 rulebooks and 988 pages into just 2 things to remember. Number 1. You roll a d20, add the modifiers to hit a target number. Number 2. The DM makes the rest of the stuff up. That's it. That's the whole shebang. Welcome to my masterclass. That'll be $180. Or you can like and subscribe. I mean, you can send me $180 if you want to. Now, obviously, it's a little bit more than that. And I'm going to take you step by step through the process of making you a great Dungeon Master. Or a good Dungeon Master. Or whatever. Now, these books, which I love, only give you the context of when to apply those modifiers and how high to make the target number given the situation that the player characters are in. You don't need to read that stuff. Nobody reads that stuff. I've been playing for over 30 years with people who have been playing over 40 years, and I've never met anyone who has read all of the books straight through. It just doesn't happen. Now, I've been playing 5th edition for years now, and I still don't understand the functional difference between a warlock and a sorcerer. I think it has something to do with inherent magical abilities, metamagic, and dark powers originating from some unfathomable ancient horror. The trick is you don't need to know that either. Your players are going to geek out about their characters and the powers that they can do. They'll tell you about it a lot. Now, some people will go out there and tell you that if you don't know all the rules and all the powers and abilities for every character, that your players are going to surprise you somehow, or you can't make a ruling on the spot. I say that's nonsense. All you need to do is to figure out a reasonable target number to make a ruling on the spot. And the player character surprising you actually makes the game more fun. It's more dynamic because you don't exactly know how they're going to solve your problems. So you know the 2 rules. Now what? How do you get started playing Dungeons & Dragons? Well, the key here is probably to start with something very simple. A short, punchy adventure that gets straight to the point and allows an opportunity for your players to get to know their characters and their characters' abilities a little bit better. I mean, it's all fine and dandy to have this idea of an epic campaign that sprawls the entire world with political machinations and world-ending prophecies. But you don't start off like that. You start off with an intro adventure, something simple and easy to finish. This doesn't need to be epic, or even difficult for your player characters to overcome. Peak drama does not start with session 1 when you're introducing new players into the game. But just like a baby deer erupting from its mother, your player characters are going to be a little uneasy on their feet. And so will you. Ease them into it, and it will ease you into it. Okay, so what pre-made adventures work well for this? Well, over the past 50 years, D&D has actually gotten pretty good about making these sorts of things, so the examples are endless. First up, Defiance in Flan. Wait, Flan? Like the dessert? Are you freaking kidding me right now? Anyway, this is a collection of 5 mini-adventures that start on page 5 of the document, link in the doobly-doo. Skip the first section, it's just some Adventure League nonsense about a tea house, which is like a tavern, except they serve tea. Now, this tea house is a place where adventurers can look for work and missions in Flan. I'm sorry. Can we change that name? Can we not use Flan? Like, Name it, I don't know, the city of Tiramisu. It's like your average city, except we build vertically with layers. Or you can make your own adventure. I highly recommend this, as it's super fun. Think about it. A local tomb. The villagers in town warn children not to go there because of an ancient evil that resides in the catacombs. Or a battlefield from a far-gone age. The ghosts of the soldiers who died still roam the field. But in actuality, it's just a bandit encampment, and the bandits roam the land, kidnapping people and stealing from caravans. Now, grab some paper and draw 3 rooms, and make some hallways connecting those rooms. Now let's start populating those rooms with monsters. Let's say you have 4 characters that are going on this adventure. Let's put goblins in the first room, 1 for each. This allows each player character to utilize some of their abilities against a goblin individually. This teaches them how to use their character's abilities. And at a 1-for-1 ratio, the player character should win this fight. Although I have done a party wipe with 1-for-1 goblin to character, but I'm pretty evil. Now let's say that your group doesn't want to fight the goblins. Let's say that they want to talk to them. That's the beauty of Dungeons & Dragons. You can do whatever you can think of doing with your character. Plus, goblins are thinking creatures. They speak. They can be negotiated with. They can be reasoned with. Let the player characters try. You gotta make it somewhat difficult. Goblins don't trust player characters. They're just trying to survive in a cruel and weird world. And the player characters may not trust the goblins. They do have a reputation of sorts. But, generally speaking, you don't want to say no to your player characters trying something like this. Except for a circumstance we'll get to in a second. So, they've dealt with the goblins in the first room. What's next? Well, let's go to room number 2. Put a trap in this room. But specifically, put a sleep spell trap in this room. Maybe a floor panel gets pressed on and a sleep spell shoots out of the walls. Why a sleep spell? Well, it doesn't actually kill the group, but it presents them with a problem. A first level wizard in D&D still doesn't have that many hit points. So if they walk into the next room and an axe slams into their chests and kills them, they're not learning a lesson. It's just cruel. What this does with a sleep spell is it teaches them to be wary of traps, something they may not have realized exists if they've never played D&D before. And a sleep spell would also teach them how to make a saving throw. But even if they fail that saving throw, they're not dead, they're just sleepy. No permanent harm, but it still teaches that lesson. Now we're on to the last room. Let's say we put 3 goblins in that room, and an orc, and maybe a human thug. Although I generally don't like the word thug. Like many things in our language, it was stolen from a different language, in this case Hindi, but it's the actual name of the creature in the monster manual, so we'll keep it for now. Now what's different in this circumstance is there's a chest of treasure there for them. Now the bandits are going to guard this with their lives, but they're also thinking creatures. They should know when they've lost. Now these folks are guarding a chest of treasure, gold stolen from caravans and maybe even a kidnapped person or 2 for ransom. They are not going to give this up without a fight. Now, that being said, after about 3 of the goblins die, the orc and the human might look to each other and realize they're going to lose. But what do? Does the human sell out the orc? Does the orc just flee and leave the human to die? And if one of them does flee, that gives you a gift, because now you have a recurring villain that can come back later, stronger, that your player characters remember, and it will be so satisfying for them to take care of that guy later on down the line. The possibilities are endless. Use your imagination. That's what makes the Dungeon Master special, and so much better than a computerized game telling you how it all resolves. That's it, your players win. They have vanquished the enemy. They look into the chest, open it up, and find 500 gold pieces. They're rich. You're out of pizza. You politely ask them to leave. They don't. You keep talking about the session for the next 45 minutes. It's generally how these things end. Now, you've just played Dungeons & Dragons. Thank you for watching, folks. If you liked the video, click the like button, Feel free to subscribe and hit the bell icon for notifications for when we upload new videos. And if you have questions or thoughts for future videos that you'd like us to cover, comment down below and I'll check it out and I may respond in a future video. Thanks so much.